Um, Welcome to my live. I thought I'd do a live video this morning. Just a kind of I've not gone live here on YouTube, my YouTube channel. I don't think ever actually, and so I just wanted to come on and talk to you about ankylosing spondylitis, which is what my channel is all about. It's about raising awareness. It's about the kind of target of raising awareness would be to try and get the diagnosis time reduced. At the moment, it's around 7 or 8 years. That's a crazy amount of time to wait for a diagnosis, whether your diagnosis is from your first symptom through to your actual like sort of day of diagnosis, or whether you've started your diagnosis kind of journey and then it still takes a while to go through all the tests, all the scans, all those sorts of things. We know in the UK these things take a long time, just because of our NHS. There's always a backlog of things, especially since COVID. There's a huge backlog of tests and scans, particularly things like MRIs, CT scans, things like that. So there's a waiting list for those. So my number one goal is spreading the awareness of this issue. Now, if you're not aware of what ankylosing spondylitis actually is, it's an inflammatory arthritic condition. Effectively, it belongs to a family of autoimmune conditions. And what it does is, being an autoimmune disease, it attacks your own body. So effectively, it thinks that your body has, bad parts to it, and it needs to send inflammation to those areas to try and protect those areas. So, for example, if you've got a hip issue, or particularly within the hip, the sacroiliac joint where the spine meets the pelvis, and your body thinks that there is an issue in that sacroiliac joint, it will send inflammation there. To what it thinks it's doing is, your body thinks it's protecting itself. So it will send inflammation to make sure that there's no impact there, and protect those joints. And for all intents and purposes, that is what your body should be doing. However, with ankylosing spondylitis, there's nothing wrong initially with your body. It just thinks there is. So it will send that inflammation there, and the inflammation can then kind of get a bit too big. And if that inflammation isn't controlled or managed, and reduced to the minimum level that it should be, it can cause damage. So there's all sorts of damage that can happen. The one major part that can happen with ankylosing spondylitis, the main result is that certain bones can fuse together. So this is what, for example, this is what they call bamboo spine. So normally your spine, the vertebrae within your spine should be, each part should be separated by a nice little cushion, and where the ankylosing spondylitis will effectively inflame those cushions, they'll eventually cause damage if you don't control it. And of course, then that cushion will effectively, deplete, the bone will take over. And I don't know, there's um, the term for it is, I don't know whether it's the ankylosation or the spondylitisation. I don't know. That's bad wording. I don't know. But I think it's the ankylosing side of things, which is the fusing. And they can fuse together, and you get something called a bamboo spine, which is an absolutely rigid spine, which is the kind of end result of ankylosing spondylitis. So it's a horrific thing to have to go through, but there are ways to manage it. So managing ankylosing spondylitis is something that can require all sorts of different things. So, we're talking medication. So, things like anti-inflammatories, like non-steroidal anti-inflammatories or NSAIDs, like ibuprofen, like naproxen, torocoxib, those sorts of things. Other things like biologics can help with reducing the severity of how ankylosing spondylitis attacks. Now, that works in a slightly different way, in that there's a couple of different types of biologic. For example, there's one called an anti-TNF, which is anti-tumor necrosing factor. And that's what the TNF stands for. And what it does is that it targets certain like parts of your body, like the genes that are actually attacking your body, the genetic side of what's attacking your body. And what that does is, by doing that, it kind of just slows down the progress of ankylosing spondylitis, which is great. So they are a game changer. Other ways of managing disease is things like the physical side of treatment. So you can have physio treatment, you can have hydrotherapy, which is, being in a nice warm pool and doing exercises in there. Exercising, like really gentle exercising that can't be like, vigorous or anything like that. Stretching. So ankylosing spondylitis is big in symptoms when you first get out of bed or when you first wake up in the morning, because you've been still all night. It kind of like tightens up all your joints, and then you wake up and you think to yourself, right, okay, I have to do something. So the first thing you do, even naturally, if you don't have ankylosing spondylitis, first thing you do is go and stretch and stuff like that. It's a natural thing for your body to want to do. With ankylosing spondylitis, it is just another level of that. So it's like that turned up to 100. You have to do some real stretching to really kind of get your body into shape to be able to just kind of perform your daily kind of in a normal kind of fashion. So for example, if you would score a regular person without ankylosing spondylitis, their sort of body stiffness within a day would be hopefully 0. With someone with the condition, you could probably expect it to be, between 1 and 10. As simple as that. The ideal scenario would be that you would probably get it down to a 1, but there would always be something underlying there, whether it be neck, fingers, hips, back, shoulders, legs, ankles, whatever. It's a systemic condition, so it can attack absolutely any joint in your body. So that's the kind of sort of treatment side of things that, can help. There's a lot of stuff that you can do yourself, in terms of, sort of, I know they say healthy mind, healthy body, as a, like, kind of uh, uh, like, the mindfulness kind of thing. Sorry, I'm trying to get rid of this on my page here. So mindfulness is a really, really big thing. Having stress is not good for having ankylosing spondylitis. So, for example, a stressful situation can create a fight or flight mode within your mind or brain, and then that can trigger your body into what we call a flare up. Now, triggers can be anything: physical, mental, emotional. Literally, they can come from anywhere. They can come from nothing at all. You might just have a flare for no reason. Now, flare ups usually are horrendous. There's no like there's no painting that in a nicer picture, right? The triggers that can cause those flare ups, if you're in a stressful situation, your body will react to that stressful situation. It's as simple as that. Your brain can cause your body to create high levels of cortisol. If that happens, your body will then react to that cortisol, and it can be an issue with causing another flare-up. Having an injury of some kind. So, there's all sorts of things that happen with having ankylosing spondylitis. Like, you might have dizziness, for example. If you have dizziness, fall over and hurt your arm, hurt your leg, whatever. Let's say you land on your wrist and you sprain your wrist, something simple as that. That spraining of the wrist can cause, obviously, initial pain within that area, but your body is going to react to that initial pain and then go, okay, I'm already fighting pain and fighting against everything else in your body. I don't know what to do with this pain here in your wrist. So the idea of ankylosing spondylitis within your body is a conflict in itself. It's really, really strange how it works within your body. It doesn't like things like injuries. It doesn't like a difficult emotive state. If you're if you have extremely upset about something, kind of thing, it won't like that. And then sort of the mental approach, obviously, mental health, any level of mental health difficulties that you're having will cause a problem with ankylosing spondylitis. Equally, ankylosing spondylitis can cause problems with mental health. So it's kind of like a circular thing where one affects the other and just can keep going up and up and up unless you keep it managed. So the mental health side of things is really important to keep on top of. And there's a massive correlation between having an autoimmune condition and having a mental health condition, where if you're in a lot of pain all the time, chronic pain is going to cause you to go a little bit, let's face it, a little bit crazy. It certainly did with me. And the idea of your body constantly fighting against something and your body effectively using all its energy to fight against your own body that's trying to, almost trying to harm you, causes problems with your brain because your brain doesn't know what your body is doing. It's sending mixed signals to your brain is sending mixed signals to your body, and everything's going all over the place, basically. So mental health is extremely important to keep um, maintained, I guess, in a very positive way. I know that's easy to say and very difficult to do. I don't know if any of you guys have had difficulties with both mental health and an autoimmune condition. I know I have. I'm, happy to answer any questions if you have any questions about it. But there's a massive correlation between the two. Very high percentage of people, not just with ankylosing spondylitis, but any autoimmune condition, it can really, really take its toll on your mental health. And your mental health is so important. So hi there, Luke. How you doing? Thank you for joining. But your mental health, is really, really important to make sure that if you can't get it to its best place, then get it to a happy medium, kind of a plateau, I guess, and try and keep it just steady, whether that be through medication, meditation, just taking time out for yourself. And now, again, it's easily said, it's easier said than done. But all these things are so, so important. I know there's been a lot of bad press around, I guess what's classed as mental health at the moment, whether, certain things, aren't classed as, a mental health condition anymore and things like that. But, I don't even want to use the word low level or the phrase low level, because that's not the right phrase to use. But there's certain press out there that are using almost like autism as anxiety as like weaponizing it. And that's wrong. Okay, that's absolutely wrong. Anxiety is a genuine condition that can be debilitating. It's not on everybody. Absolutely. Everybody is different. And I totally stand by that. Again, every condition that you could possibly have is different in everybody. Your body, your own personal body reacts to how you've got the condition, how you deal with the condition, and I think your mindset with the condition as well. So there's a lot of like physical conditions where your mindset might be, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to do this ever again. From a physical point of view, that might be the case. From a mental point of view, it's difficult to get that out of your mind, which kind of brings me to something that I did a video on ages ago, was the grief process. So when someone goes through a diagnosis of any autoimmune condition, any mental health condition, any disease diagnosis whatsoever, they can go through the grieving process. Now, the grieving process, you would automatically assume someone has passed away, you're grieving for that person. With a diagnosis, you actually grieve for your old self. So your old self would be, you, but jumping around, running around like a little kid, basically. And you grieve for that. You grieve for the good old days of where you were able to do, 3 nights on the trot drinking and you know, getting home at 4 o'clock in the morning and then working the next day and stuff like that. And you grieve that, absolutely. But your life just turns completely different. And you go through those grieving stages of grief. And, the first one is denial. Absolutely. Not everybody will go through every stage, but I think the first stage and the final stage are the most important in terms of how you're then going to deal with your diagnosis moving forward. So the first one is denial, and you might just go, oh, no, I want to carry on as I am. You push yourself too far a lot of the times, and you don't know your thresholds with what your physical side of things can be, your physical body can cope with. And then the next, you go through the next stages, and then you finally get to acceptance. Once you get to acceptance with the grieving process, you it's like a light bulb moment almost, where you go, actually, yeah, this is what it's going to look like from this day forward. I'm going to live like this. I'm going to try and achieve this. I'm going to give myself certain goals to achieve, rather than just kind of plod along or anything like that. And you find ways to manage your life so that you give yourself almost rewards. It's like little wins. Instead of trying to achieve something that is huge, like say you want to run the London Marathon. That's absolutely great. It's possibly easier to then go, okay, what I'll do is do the park run round the corner first, where it's only 1 or 2 kilometers, and then you build it up. So you do little wins like that, but it doesn't necessarily have to be like actual physical things like that. It could be little things, tiny weeny little things, like you want to cook a meal for somebody, and that could mean it could mean the world to them, it could mean the world to you, and those little wins will make you feel amazing. And then you go on to do the next little win, and you don't have to do a little win every single day. You could do it whenever you want. It's your pacing, it's your life effectively, and it's how you want to manage things. So there are plenty of ways to be able to manage your life. But I'm not a doctor or anything like that, so just to throw that out there. But I'd like to say from experience that the best ways to kind of work and manage with ankylosing spondylitis is to work with it rather than fight it. If you fight it, you're gonna lose a battle there. You're never going to win against that, something like that. But if you just manage alongside it every day, be aware of your thresholds. That is the amount of energy you have, maybe the number of spoons you have. So if you know about the spoon theory, that's great. That really, really helps to kind of, plan out your day and your energy and things like that. So know your thresholds. Know when you need to take a break and have a sleep, whatever. Also know when you need your own time away from people. That's very important. Basically, all these things are important on different levels to different people. So find your comfortable kind of areas with each one, and Absolutely. Ankylosing spondylitis can be perfectly manageable if you find your management point, I guess is what I'm saying. Um, it's, yeah, I'm not going to say, you can cure it. There's no cure there at all, unfortunately. But there are ways to work alongside it. And that is the key thing. If you find your parts of your life that you can manage, sort of break it down. If you can work, and you might be thinking, okay, I can work, but I can only work X amount of hours, then fine. It's just try it. If you can only be awake for, you know, 10 hours a day, okay, that's your threshold. If you need more sleep than that, find a way to make it work. If you find that you have a threshold of a physicality, so for example, you can only walk so far, or you can only walk for so long, or something like that, find that threshold. Make sure you don't go past that threshold. So something like a little smartwatch or something like that can tell you exactly how far you've traveled, how far you've walked, steps, all those sorts of things. So you can go, okay, I can set an alarm or a target of, 1,000 steps. That's my limit. I'm not going to go past that. So you get a little alarm saying, okay, you've hit your 10,000 steps, hit your 1,000 steps or whatever. It's time to take a break. You then have a sit down. You make sure you're sitting down or whatever. It's things like that. Also in physicality, I would say that there comes a time when there is a set of grief stages, and that is when you may need to use, say, walking aids or something like that. So walking stick or crutches, whatever. Yeah. It depends on, your physicality and stuff like that, how much ankylosing spondylitis has previously maybe damaged your your bones or your joints or whatever. And I have a walking stick, and again I was just like, do I want a walking stick? Not really. I still feel like I don't feel old or anything like that. And that is the misconception about walking sticks. Walking sticks, old people. That's how I always used to assume these things. Now that I'm in that position, it's like, okay, I didn't want to originally. Then it's like, right, okay, I'll take it out once. Found that it really helped. And you can just shift your weight off the joint that is really, really, flaring or hurting at that point, or you've got the damage on or whatever. And do you know what? You go through that stage again, and bang, acceptance is there. You go, right, okay, that actually works for me. And I know it's a small thing, like the acceptance of a walking stick, but the walking stick can really, really help. Brandon Wilkinson, I'm so gassy. Okay, is that something to do with ankylosing spondylitis, or I'm not sure? You just letting us know. Thanks. But yeah, the those acceptance parts really, really can kind of help with you, like, moving forward to your next level. Sorry, lactose intolerance. Okay. So do you have a certain diet that you follow, like an anti-inflammatory diet or anything like that? Or there's something called the Mediterranean diet, which is meant to be really good for anti-inflammatory or inflammation, basically. So yeah, see, let's see if that's any good. But yeah, there's loads of different things that you can go through in terms of your um, thresholds that really can help. But an interesting thing about the the lactose and stuff like that is diet. Diet can really help with management of an autoimmune condition. So there's certain foods that can trigger inflammation in your body. So one of the key things is sugar, um, uh, alcohol. You know, anything, basically anything bad for you normally is going to be horrendous for you with ankylosing spondylitis. It's usually the tasty stuff. Anything you like, chocolate, that's not good. Anything like from anything snacky, crisps or anything like that. It's all really not good. So it's weird that everything is kind of, I guess, out of proportion in terms of how it affects you, but it does affect you. Like sugar would make a normal person without, I say normal person, we're all normal. A person without ankylosing spondylitis, sugar might just, make them put on a little bit of weight, and it's kind of bad for your teeth. That's it, right? With someone with ankylosing spondylitis, it's those two tenfold, and then it causes inflammation as well, which is the big problem. But yeah, in terms of your teeth, that can cause where your bones have issues from joints and stuff like that. Your jaw can cause problems because it's effectively a joint there, and your bones and how your bones hold on to your teeth, that can be a problem as well. So make sure you do, again, make sure that you follow good kind of hygiene, I guess, with brushing teeth and stuff like that. It's as simple as that. It's just the little things. Again, make sure you're doing all the little things, and then everything else will fit into place. It's a big like amount of information to kind of take in, but by living with it, you kind of get to you get to know all these little kind of shortcuts, what you don't have and what you do have, and there's certain things that can set off certain issues in some and not set off issues in others, like gluten, for example. It's all a bit like different for everyone, so you just need to find your specific kind of areas that are good and bad for you, basically. So Brandon, this is in the right side of my right foot. Wow. Okay. Is that through? I'm just trying to think why that would be specifically there. Is that like a muscular thing, or is it a nerve thing? If it's the feelings, it'll probably be nerve things. Okay. Yeah, that might be nerves. So if you're taking medication for things like an autoimmune condition like ankylosing spondylitis, some medication can stop or reduce the pain by reducing the what the nerve endings feel. So yeah, nerves, right? Okay. So there's one drug, no meds at all. Okay, that's really interesting. Then all I can suggest is getting that checked out by a doctor or something like that. That doesn't sound good at all. But it definitely sounds like a nerve thing rather than a muscular thing. Like a muscular thing would cause direct pain in that area, as far as I know. Um, like if it was a sprain, for example, or something like that, or you know, or a twist or something to do with the actual joint. A trapped nerve would cause direct pain. Um, so no feeling at all. It's got to be, yeah, something quite serious. Necropsy. That's serious. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Get to your doctor. Like, get that checked out. Absolutely. It's not something you want to be living with whatsoever. Um, it's these are sorts of things that can um, happen, like the peripheral kind of side of having an autoimmune condition. So there's loads of direct stuff that might happen, like pain in your back, pain in your sacroiliac joint, pain in any of your joints, basically. But also, there's loads of other things that can cause all sorts of other issues. So, for example, it's the stuff that nobody sees, for example, like gut issues. There's you know, real correlation with a lot of people that have if they've been diagnosed with one autoimmune condition, and then there's a load of others that suddenly spring up over the years. So things like Crohn's um, and ulcerative colitis, I think it's called. Those two kind of can happen. There's a bunch of other stuff. There's the mental health side of things, which I touched on earlier in the video, which can be obviously the invisibility side of an autoimmune condition. And I think the invisibility of things is what can cause a lot of issues from other people looking inwards at us. So, say, for example, you have a blue badge, you park in a disabled parking spot. We've all been there. Someone with ankylosing spondylitis might look absolutely fine. They might get out of the car a little bit slowly, creaky kind of thing. But what I find is if I get out of the car, I tend not to go shopping anymore at all. But when I used to, I would be the one holding the trolley, because the trolley actually held me up. So it's kind of like almost like a walker. So people wouldn't necessarily see that anything was wrong until I then got back to the disability spot and got in the car. But I would always get the old funny looks from people going, "Oh, he's in a disability spot. Why is he in there? He doesn't look disabled." You always get that. You get some stupid comments occasionally. I don't usually rise to these. There's no point. You're not going to, educate anybody by, biting back if they say something stupid. But, some people do, just let them get on with it, But Jacob, hi, how you doing? SI's right, okay, hurting today. Been on Humira for years. I don't want it anymore. The side effects are not good. Okay, SI's not, your SI joint, it's the sacroiliac joint, is an area, it's probably along with the spine, the main area that people with ankylosing spondylitis get hit the most. It's nasty because it stops you from walking properly. It stops you from twisting, which you would, I took for granted before I had AS, just looking over the shoulder, or, bending down to pick up stuff, or reaching up to get stuff, all those things took for granted, got AS, and I was just like, "Ugh." So I do feel your pain. Absolutely. You've been on Humira for years. Don't want it anymore. So I'm on adalimumab, which is like the same sort of thing as Humira. Works in the same way. It's an anti-TNF biologic. So, okay, the side effects are not good. Interestingly, my side effects have come up over the past year. So, if you're okay to share some of those side effects on here, go for it. The past year, I've been on biologic for 6 or 7 years now, maybe longer. And in the past year, my symptoms have, ramped up a little bit. I haven't done anything different. The NSAIDs were causing problems a year and a half ago with my liver, so I had to cut back on those to 3 times a week rather than every single day. So that's the only thing medically that's changed. Is that enough of a change, for example, for all these symptoms to suddenly ramp up over the past year? Who knows? I just don't know. But there's, I've been booked in for another MRI scan for neck, spine, and hips to just ensure that I haven't gone downhill since I last had those done, which was 8 or 9 years ago now. So it's really good to have a rheumatology team that look after you. They look out for you. They do take on board everything that you say, and they do all the tests quite often, which is the BASDI, the BASFI, and the BASMI tests, which are all, if you could do this, mark out of 10. If you could do that, if you could do this, mark out of 10. It's basically just a set of questions to show how you can or can't move, how you can or can't like bend down, get up, and all those sorts of things. And it's really, really useful for them to be able to keep track of where you are in your, let's call it an autoimmune journey, right? And it's also good for us as patients to know that someone is looking out for us. There's nothing worse than being, say, gaslit by a sort of any kind of medical sort of person, whether it be a nurse, doctor, or a consultant, whatever. You want to go in there, you want to be heard, basically. These issues that we have are genuine, they are horrible, and it's nice to, number one, be heard, and number two, have something done about it, which is great. Right, it's just hard feeling like a guinea pig for the meds. Yeah, I feel for you. I think because there's always a lot changing with regard to, I guess, the sort of how medication is advancing over the years and treatment is advancing. It's weird to kind of find your happy place in terms of sort of medication. And not only as time passes and the medication changes, we change as people as well. Our bodies change, as we get older. As simple as that. Some things we can tolerate, some things our bodies learn to create an intolerance to. It's strange how, we're bizarre creatures, I guess. So pain meds don't really do anything either. That's a shame. So you're basically just in pain all the time. That's no good at all. Do I have a normal job, like a 40-hour-week job? I did. I was medically retired a few years ago. So yeah, I had a really, really good job, very, very successful. And it was a job I really liked it. I really miss it. I was assessed by so many people, it's unreal. And they put it and poked around with me, sort of, both, through like questions and also through tests and stuff like that. And then eventually, I had insurance basically from my company, and that covered things like terminal illnesses, chronic illnesses, and like, I know it sounds bad, death in service, stuff like that. They covered all that sort of thing. And when it came to the time that I basically slowed down on my job, there was a point where it was obvious that I couldn't actually do my job anymore. I was sitting there and I was actually in tears of pain. It was so bad. I'll never forget the day that I kind of realized, and I got up from my chair. I didn't speak to anyone, just got up out of my chair, walked over to a meeting room at work, closed the door behind me, and it was the only meeting room in the building without any windows, so I knew nobody could see me. And I just sat on the floor in the corner, and I was there for about 2.5 hours or something like that. And then eventually I picked up the phone, and I never speak to anybody on the phone. I hate the phone, right? Picked up the phone, rang my wife, and she said, "What are you doing? What are you calling me for?" And I just said, "I think there's something wrong with me." And it was those words, and those words will always live with me forever. I think there's something wrong with me. And she was like, "Let's get you out there. Let's get you out there now." So I rang up my boss, because she worked remotely, and I said, there's something wrong. And she was like, "Okay, yeah, I think you're right. You've not been, right for, a little while. I've noticed, things go a little bit weird and stuff like that, and you kind of zoning out and, disappearing and stuff like that. I was literally going into meeting rooms and just crying my eyes out, coming back, or, sitting in the toilet cubicle, just sitting there." So she said, "I'm glad you realize that there's something wrong. How can we help?" So they helped massively. They got me psychological help. They got me, because initially, they just assumed it was a psychological thing. But then the pain was just like absolutely crazy. I said, "No, there's something physically wrong as well." So I got to see a doctor, got that rushed through. And then basically, my company said, "Can you do your job anymore?" It's, a very straightforward question. And I said, I just said, "I don't know." And they said, "Okay, let's assess whether you can or not." So they assessed me. like a psychological assessment. Those guys that come in, I can't remember. There was two different guys that came in that asked a bunch of questions on whether, can he do a job or can he not do a job. And I couldn't effectively. The pain was causing too much of a distraction for my brain to function properly to be able to do my job. Then I went to the rheumatologist, got diagnosed and all that sort of thing. All this while I was still working. So it was still happening, but I had just so much time off. It was crazy. And they spoke to the rheumatologist as well. And the rheumatologist said, okay, effectively it was the question was put out there. Can he do his job with this condition? And all the assessors came back with saying, no, he can't do his job in his current state. The doctor said the distraction of the pain is basically too much for his brain to focus on his job. And the rheumatologist said the same. And then the rheumatologist said, now he's going to be starting treatment soon, but that treatment won't necessarily mean he can still do the job that you asked him to do, like contractually, effectively, like a job description. What is on this job description? Can he still do this? And it was basically a no. So the insurer stepped in and said, right, off you pop, you're going to medically retire. And because that insurer did something within that contract of off you go, medically retire, it meant that the wording was like unable to do any job, not unable to do that job. Because of that information was sent to the HMRC, and the HMRC then went back to them and said, yes, we confirm he is medically retired. Thank you very much. And then I retired at just before COVID. It was 42, 43. Really early, like ridiculously early. So I don't work now. No. I just kind of do stuff, hang around, watch Netflix, and stuff like that. Almost completed it as well. Right. So, do you have any other autoimmune diseases? I have psoriatic arthritis. Right. Psoriatic arthritis. They are testing me for that as well. It's because there's a lot of like the psoriasis patches that have started to pop up in the past year. That's nasty though. I know that one of my mates has got that, and that on its own, and just that alone is not good at all. So you're not having a great time, are you? I know no words can ever say, oh, I hope you have a good day, I hope you're feeling better or anything like that. That's never going to cut it, is it? So what I've come up with the phrase of is, I hope you have the best day that you can. Simple as that. So today might not be a good day, but hopefully tomorrow might be better. It's never going to be best. It's never going to be back in the old days, but hopefully there will be better days. So you're still working and part-time to survive. You're right. There's, let's face it, there's a horrendous cost of living crisis at the moment. There's, in terms of what we can get, it's ankylosing spondylitis is classed as a disability, and therefore, there are certain sort of benefits you can get for that. If it's affecting you in a specific way, you can get PIP, for example. You can get onto the Motability scheme. If it does affect you physically in the right ways for their assessment. If you can't work, you can get something called employment support allowance, but it's like, I think it's about £100 a week. These are things, these are tiny, tiny, tiny little amounts, and it's just not enough. It's as simple as that, right? And I'm in a lucky position where I was always saving money when I was working. I won't beat around the bush. I was paid very well when I was working. And so there was always money put aside. I always looked at, ways to make sure that I'd always, make the most out of my money, like put it in an ISA and all that sort of thing. And, made sure that there was a decent return on it and things like that. And I know not everybody's in that same position. I got lucky, and that is it. But I would give anything at all to have good health back. Absolutely anything. There's nothing, they say money can't buy you happiness, right? It certainly can't buy you good health. That's without a shadow of a doubt. And I really, really feel for you, Jacob. I mean, it's knowing that same position that I was in, a few years ago. Yeah, you're right. The mental aspect is so like, what's the word? It's crazy. It's just crazy. It's simple as that. It's absolutely awful. And a lot of people don't seem to kind of like fully understand or fully grasp that there's something as wrong as this when they can't see it. There was moments where I went into work and I couldn't physically probably walk, and I was like leaning up against the wall, kind of dragging myself across the office, and then sat down in my chair, and then someone just turned to me and, you shouldn't be at work, let alone out of bed. What are you doing? Like, got stuff to do, got reports to send, got some, people were, relying on me to get a job done. I had to do it. But, things got sorted in the end. But one of the things that I did quite early on was continued with the psychology. It started off as counseling, and as soon as I started that, I knew it wasn't enough. So that got ramped up to psychology pretty quickly, and then that went up to psychiatry really, really quickly, and they diagnosed me with something called was it severe depressive disorder, something like that, depression effectively, and also anxiety, which I didn't think I had. But then they were like, oh, what do you do in this situation? Panic. Okay. What do you do in that situation? Hide. Okay. That's kind of what it is. What do you do in this situation? Freeze. What about this? You sweat. And it's all those. And I was just like, wow, okay, maybe I do then. But yeah, they were kind of really helpful in that initial kind of uh, first year. Well, it's about a year actually. The whole kind of the whole thing kind of went on for. It kind of dragged a bit, to be fair, with time in, time out, going in part time, coming back out again. Appointments literally, you know, coming out my ears. I had physio, I had hydrotherapy, I had scans, blood tests, more scans. I saw a chiropractor at one point, which was the totally wrong thing to do. And yeah, it's just a sort of constant sort of in and out of work. Really, it wasn't ideal for them, and it wasn't ideal for me at all. And of course, money was going down really, really quickly, and it wasn't until we got to the end and said, okay, got to do something, and that was for me to be medically retired. It's hard when you feel not heard. Pain is real. And a whole lot of us that talk about this. Yeah, do you know what? I totally agree with that. It's a pleasure chatting to you. Absolutely. I think the being heard thing, I'm on TikTok as well. I do live stuff on TikTok, and I've been putting videos up on here for the best part of about, I don't know, well, since I got diagnosed actually. And before that, it was just stupid stuff. Like I had a channel and I just chucked stupid stuff up. Still chuck stupid stuff up, but a lot of it is the needs to be heard, the knowing that you're not alone, that it's, I guess, a validation from people who are in a the same or similar boat. I think the validation side of things, what I tend to see on YouTube, there seems to be more guys on YouTube that watch my video but don't engage with it, and less women, but they do engage with it. Whereas on TikTok, there's more women and they all engage with it, less guys, and they get a little bit of engagement. But it's interesting that the old statistics would say that there's more men that had it, which has been proven to be incorrect since whenever it was that they did a study or whatever. But now, it's just as many men that have it that women have it, which is totally understandable. I don't know why they would ever say that there were more men. But on TikTok, the amount of people that engage with it that are women is off the charts, and they share everything. It's absolutely amazing. I guess they just talk more than us guys, and I think with what I saw on the, what was it, Men's International Day or Men's National Day, like last week or the week before, whenever it was, I saw a lot of guys saying, we should talk more, reach out and we'll talk more. But that was it. There was no actually doing of it. I think we all know that we should, but the actual doing of is something that we can all kind of, step up a little bit more. Mental health is absolutely, it's so important in terms of making sure that you're doing the right thing to keep your mental health at its best. Whether your best is, at this level or that level, as long as the best that you can do to keep it healthy, that's the main thing that I think that we could all do. yeah, knowing that us guys, we don't really chat generally. You know, I've got mates who I haven't seen for, you know, 5 years or whatever. And like when I see them, I'll be like, oh, yeah, all right, yeah, yeah. Like I saw them yesterday. I don't think that it's like time doesn't matter. You know, once you're a mate kind of thing. Um, whereas, you know, there's a difference between a woman's friendship with another woman when they compared to a man's friendship with another man kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? You know, not in a like a gay way or anything, you know. But I'm completely going off topic now. Anyway, going back to the comments here. Yeah, we should all talk. I'm going to go live on this a lot more so that there are opportunities for us all to chat and get our thoughts out there and stuff like that. My son needs to tell me, it just tells me I need to stretch more. I think you can never kind of do enough stretching. I started off when I first got diagnosed with one set of stretching, half an hour a day. That was it. After about 6 months, that turned out to 2 lots of half an hour a day. And then it just built up and up and up. And now I just kind of don't stop. Like I've been on here for just over an hour now, and my arse, my sacroiliac joint on my left side is absolutely killing me now. So I think it might be time to do a runner and get back into position and, you know, stretch the other way basically. But yeah, you're right. You do a bit of stretching, keep it going. I do it non-stop all day. And it was actually quite funny when I was still working, just a little story going back to that. When I do the stretches there, and like some people didn't know what was going on, I'd be like doing lunges and stuff like that in the middle of the office. And they were like, what are you doing? Seriously, doing like the plank thing, trying to do that to build up the core, because yeah, you got to keep your core strength going. Like, well, I didn't go to the gym at lunchtime. Like, no, I've got to do it more often than that. And I'm not, yeah, I'm not building up a sweat or anything. So might as well just do it there while you've got your little headset on doing a video call or whatever. It's like, yeah, you're doing press ups while you're trying to send a report to Germany or whatever. The stuff we do. Anyway, I am going to do a runner now. Good talking. Got to get my day started. Yeah, absolutely. Jacob, nice meeting you, mate. And or nice talking to you. And I will go live again. And I'm going to talk about probably flare-ups and stuff like that next time. Okay, so thank you ever so much for everyone that has joined. And I shall talk to you all again. Thank you very much indeed. Bye-bye.